Okay, picture this. A former duchess who once lived in a palace is now teaching us how to arrange flowers from her $14 million mansion while telling us it's relatable content. That's right, Meghan Markle's new Netflix show has dropped, and I have thoughts. She went from being chased by paparazzi and fighting with the royal family to teaching us how to make jam? Is this the most expensive identity crisis ever filmed? Let's dive into what's really happening with Love Meghan and why the internet can't stop talking about it. Hey everyone! So Meghan Markle is back on our screens, but this time she's not giving us any royal family drama. Instead, she's making homemade jam and arranging flowers. That's right, with Love Meghan is basically her big rebrand where she's swapped tiaras for table settings and is trying to convince us all that she's the next Martha Stewart. But honestly, is anyone actually buying this? I mean, this is the same Meghan who spent years telling us how awful royal life was, and now she's out here living her best royal-adjacent life, just with fancier candles and fewer awkward curtsies. And if you've seen the show, you probably know about that clip that's gone viral where she tells Mindy Kaling, "I'm Sussex now." Like, seriously? That's the big brand pivot? But here's what I keep thinking about. Meghan had what most people would consider the ultimate gig. She married a prince, lived in actual palaces, and got to wave at people for a living. The whole fairy tale package. And then suddenly it was gone. So maybe this is her way of showing she can make it on her own. Or is this just another attempt to stay relevant in Hollywood? Let's talk about it. To be completely honest, I don't totally hate the cozy, slow-living vibe Meghan is going for in With Love, Meghan. It does have that dreamy farm-to-table look, except instead of an actual farm, she's filming in a multi-million-dollar rental estate that happens to be down the road from her real house in Montecito. In each episode, Meghan invites different guests. Some are old friends, some are celebrities, like Mindy Kaling and Delfina Figueras, whose husband is Nacho Figueras, you know, that polo player who's always hanging out with Harry. They sit around eating fancy food and do these Pinterest-worthy DIY projects, like making balloon arches and salt-baked fish. The whole point of the show, Meghan wants us to believe that anyone can throw a flawless, magazine-worthy dinner party without stressing out. Her big motto is, "We're not in the pursuit of perfection, we're in the pursuit of joy," which sounds lovely. But come on. It's a little easier to be in the pursuit of joy when your kitchen looks like it came straight out of a magazine and you've got world-class chefs teaching you what to do. You ever watch something so perfect that it low-key makes you mad? That's what this show does. Everything is so perfect, so curated, so beige. And I don't mean boring beige, I mean that expensive California beige that somehow costs more than all the colourful stuff in your house combined. The food does look good, and I'm sure it tastes amazing. It's mostly simple stuff. One-pan pasta, frittatas, fancy veggie platters. She mentions crudité so many times that if you turned it into a drinking game, you'd end up in the hospital. Plus cute little ways to dress up fruit, sandwiches, and charcuterie boards. Overall, the show is calm, pretty, and super Instagrammable. But let's be honest, some parts are just plain ridiculous. Like, did you see how Meghan refuses to use regular microwave popcorn? Instead, she puts a dried cob of corn in a brown paper bag and acts like that's how everyone does it. Then, as if that wasn't enough unnecessary effort, she takes those Trader Joe's peanut butter pretzels, yes, those ones we all know and love, and dumps them from the original bag into another bag. The only difference? This one has a cute handwritten label. Oh wow, how groundbreaking. And then there's her tip for making meals look fancy. Dehydrated fruit slices. Which sounds reasonable at first. I thought she'd do what most of us would do. Throw them in the oven on low heat for a few hours, but no, she pulls out a dehydrator. Great tip. For absolutely nobody I know who actually owns one of those. When you're still using the blender you got as a wedding gift 10 years ago, a dehydrator feels like it belongs in another dimension of kitchen gadgets. You know what moment really got me? There's this scene where she's talking about how important it is to slow down and enjoy the little things while simultaneously showing us the most labor-intensive way to do everything. Like, how are you supposed to slow down when apparently you need to be hand-writing labels for your store-bought snacks and dehydrating fruit for garnishes? When was the last time you came home from work and thought, you know what would be relaxing? Spending 3 hours making my Trader Joe's snacks look like they don't come from Trader Joe's. Underneath all the cozy vibes and homemade charm, there's one thing driving this entire show: money. These so-called simple hosting tricks only work if you have either the time, the budget, or both. And we need to talk about the cookware. Most meals are cooked in this perfect off-white Le Creuset skillet because of course it has to match the neutral aesthetic. But then, out of nowhere, Meghan decides to pipe cake frosting using a plastic zip-close bag instead of an actual piping bag. Like, at this point, why not just call Wilton and get the real thing? The whole concept is supposed to be about fresh, healthy, off-the-land living. But between you and me, Meghan's version of off-the-land probably includes quick trips to Erewhon and deliveries from fancy farmers markets. I don't think I've ever felt more disconnected from someone on TV than during the last episode, when Meghan proudly showed Alice Waters the eggs from her own backyard chickens, with those deep orange yolks, perfectly arranged, like she just casually collected them before breakfast. That's easily $20 worth of eggs she's holding like they're no big deal. But the real luxury isn't the eggs, it's time. When you don't have a traditional job, have full-time childcare, and can afford all the help you need, of course you have time to make rainbow fruit arrangements for your kids in the morning. Of course you can press dried flowers into everything. Originally, With Love, Meghan was supposed to come out in mid-January, but it got delayed, supposedly because they were worried it would seem out of touch after the LA wildfires. But if they were concerned about that, I'm not sure if now is much better. With so many people struggling to keep up with crazy high prices, an economy that feels like it's barely holding on, and everything else going on. But honestly, I don't think this is all Meghan's fault. The truth is, she was set up for what should have been the perfect gig. Being someone warm and likable enough to make speeches, cut ribbons, shake hands with world leaders, and donate large sums of money without breaking a sweat. Isn't that pretty much what being a modern royal is all about? But instead of getting to live that life, she got hounded out of it, trashed by a racist press, abandoned by a royal family that didn't have the backbone to stand up for her. So when Meghan and Harry walked away from royal life, the big question became, what do we do now? It turns out being a royal doesn't exactly come with a backup career plan. They weren't trained to have jobs, they were trained to be symbols, waving from balconies, leading fancy military ceremonies, cutting cakes at charity events. Meghan could have spent her days hosting royal receptions and shaking hands with babies, but instead, we've ended up here, watching her cook in a multi-million-dollar kitchen, trying to be Nara Smith for people who don't use TikTok. And now, to top it all off, she's launching As Ever, a lifestyle brand that will probably be just as approachable as this show. That being said, if she sells honey, I might actually consider buying it. Have you ever noticed how we love to criticize women for their career choices no matter what? If Meghan had stayed a royal and played it safe, people would have called her boring or accused her of taking the easy way out. But when she tries something new, we all rush to tear that apart too. I'm not saying her show is perfect, far from it, but at least she's trying something, even if that something is teaching us how to put store-bought pretzels in a fancier bag. The thing about the best lifestyle hosts is that they either feel totally relatable or, at the very least, aspirational in a way that seems just barely within reach. Meghan, though, that's a tough sell. She seems lovely and I would definitely accept an invitation to her home, but let's be real. There's no way a duchess is ever going to feel like the voice of, if I can do it, so can you. So next time the British press decides to destroy a woman's life for sport, maybe, just maybe, they could consider what the rest of us have to suffer through afterward. Now, did you know Meghan Markle is calling her new Netflix show a love letter to California? That's a pretty way of saying, look at my perfect, dreamy, sunshine-filled life. But here's something interesting. While she's showing off all these homemade meals and backyard beekeeping, she's not actually filming in the home she shares with Harry and the kids. Nope, instead of opening up their Montecito mansion, she filmed in a rental house nearby. Why? According to Meghan, she wanted to protect that safe haven, which I totally get. If my house looked like a 5-star wellness retreat, I'd want to keep it private too. And let's not forget the practical reason. Having an 80-person crew running around your kitchen is a lot to deal with. Meghan said it herself, "Our kitchen is where Mama just cooks for the family." And I don't doubt she does cook sometimes, but something tells me she's not the one scrubbing the dishes afterward. Even though she didn't film inside her actual house, she did sprinkle in some personal touches. Parts of the show were shot in their real backyard. Their chicken coop, the garden, the orchard. You know, the same chicken coop from that famous Oprah interview where she and Harry gave us a glimpse of their simple farm life on their multi-million-dollar estate. And get this, Archie even helped out behind the scenes. Meghan said he was the one using the filming clapboard, which is actually super cute. And apparently Harry and the kids would visit her on set, which she loved because her little ones actually got to see her working. Up until now, she said, they hadn't really seen her on the job. I wonder what Harry thinks about all this. Does he sit there watching his wife arrange flowers and think, wow, this is so much better than having tea with the Queen? Or does part of him miss the structure and purpose that came with royal duties? I mean, going from cutting ribbons at hospital openings to watching your wife make balloon arches has to be a bit of an adjustment, right? Remember when you changed jobs and had that weird period of figuring out your new identity? Now imagine doing that while the entire world is watching and your old job was Prince. And then there's the bigger question that haunts this whole show. What exactly is Meghan trying to prove here? That she can be successful without the royal family? That she's just a normal California girl at heart? That she's found peace after all the drama? Maybe it's all of those things. Or maybe it's just a really expensive way to justify her Netflix deal. The saddest part to me is that underneath all the perfect styling and carefully curated moments, there might be a genuinely interesting show about a woman figuring out her identity after leaving one of the most famous families in the world. So what's the final word? Meghan's new show gives us all these cozy, perfectly curated vibes, but just not in her actual house. And whether it's in her home or a nearly identical rental, it's still Meghan Markle's world. We're just watching it on Netflix. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next.